The notion that the science on climate change is a lie to manipulate Christians is a misconception that has been perpetuated by certain groups and individuals. This idea is often rooted in a misunderstanding of the scientific consensus on climate change and a misinterpretation of the motivations behind the research. In reality, the overwhelming majority of climate scientists agree that human-induced climate change is real, and it is not a plot to manipulate Christians or anyone else. One of the primary reasons for this misconception is the misconception that climate change is a partisan issue. Some individuals and groups have attempted to frame climate change as a liberal or democratic issue, which has led some Christians to believe that it is a plot to undermine their values or advance a particular political agenda. However, climate change is a global issue that affects people of all faiths, cultures, and political affiliations. The science on climate change is based on decades of research and data collection, and it is not driven by any particular ideology or agenda. Another reason for this misconception is the misinformation and disinformation that has been spread about climate change. Some groups and individuals have intentionally spread false or misleading information about climate change, often to advance their own interests or agendas. For example, some fossil fuel companies and conservative think tanks have funded campaigns to cast doubt on the science of climate change, often using tactics such as cherry-picking data or citing debunked studies. This has led to a great deal of confusion and misinformation about climate change, which has been perpetuated by some Christians who are skeptical of the science. However, the scientific consensus on climate change is clear. According to the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change (IPCC), the world's leading climate scientists have concluded that it is extremely likely 95-100% probability that human activities, particularly the emission of greenhouse gases from burning fossil fuels and deforestation, are the dominant cause of the observed warming since the mid-20th century. This conclusion is based on multiple lines of evidence, including temperature records, shrinking ice sheets, glacier retreat, and shifts in the timing of seasonal events. Furthermore, many Christians are actually at the forefront of the effort to address climate change. Pope Francis, the head of the Catholic Church, has been a vocal advocate for climate action, and has emphasized the moral imperative to protect the planet and its inhabitants. Similarly, many evangelical Christians have spoken out on the need to address climate change, citing the biblical mandate to care for God's creation. In fact, a survey by the Pew Research Center found that 77% of white evangelicals believe that climate change is a major issue, and 56% believe that the government should do more to address it. In addition, there are many Christian organizations and initiatives that are working to address climate change. For example, the Evangelical Environmental Network has launched a campaign to mobilize Christians to take action on climate change, and the Christian Reformed Church has adopted a resolution calling for climate action. These efforts demonstrate that many Christians are committed to addressing climate change and are motivated by a desire to care for God's creation and promote justice and compassion. In conclusion, the science on climate change is not a lie to manipulate Christians. The overwhelming majority of climate scientists agree that human-induced climate change is real, and it is not driven by any particular ideology or agenda. While there are certainly some individuals and groups who are skeptical of the science, this skepticism is often based on misinformation and a misunderstanding of the scientific consensus. Many Christians are actually at the forefront of the effort to address climate change and are motivated by a desire to care for God's creation and promote justice and compassion. As such, it is essential to approach the issue of climate change with an open mind, and to seek out credible sources of information in order to make informed decisions about this critical issue.